break down all this bullshit. Gotta break down all this bullshit. Whoa, gotta break down all this bullshit. Gotta break down all this bullshit. Whoa.
What's up, buddy? Welcome to Bullshit Breakdown. We are out here. Everybody introduce yourselves.
Hi guys, it's Glenn,
Hey, it's NewNewBreed.
aka NewNewBreed.
Who else is here?
You know,
Papa J all day.
Oh my
You
God,
already
it's Papa
know.
J all day. And do we have a special guest?
I've heard. I think so.
Oh my God. Introduce yourself, sir.
All right, my name is Jack Steiger. I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
No
Yeah.
problemo. Very happy to have you. We are going to discuss a couple different branches to the question: do comedians tell the most truth? That you would say that you definitely vibe with, that you really see what they're doing on stage, appreciate the material, all that sort of thing.
now we talking stand-ups or we talking like overall? Cause
Stand up.
stand-up. See, I don't know too much about that. Well, Cat Williams, I've seen his stand-ups. He's hilarious. He gets me dying every time.
A lot of truth about Hollywood and things like that.
Right.
Like on a totally derailed, like right off to fucking
Nah,
like anti-Illuminati. That was but he used to.
I also enjoyed on Netflix. I think it was like last year or so. I enjoyed Chris Tucker's little comeback.
Yeah, Chris Tucker.
I thought he was pretty good. His little,
Tucker always made me laugh a little bit.
yeah, he was pretty
I'm not
funny.
too familiar with his stand-up actually. I'm not.
Well, apparently he used to do it. I guess that's what he started. I guess, and luckily he was able to get a gig in Friday, and the rest was history. I just enjoyed his little comeback on Netflix that he had a couple years ago. That was really funny.
Speaking of Netflix and speaking of comedians, Dave Chappelle comes to mind with this.
True.
He's,
No, that's not him.
Oh
Oh,
yes,
no,
I
God.
love this conspiracy theory. I really do. This is one of the good ones.
Explain to the people why you say this.
Well, we all got to experience a good portion of Dave Chappelle when we were younger. And then he went crazy and went to Africa and all that. And then years later, he comes back, and instantly after coming back, has a special. No talk about anything about him being gone. He's buff as fuck. He's even like a shade darker.
A
Like,
shade
this
darker.
is not the same man.
God.
I don't know, man. They said the same thing about Gucci Mane, but do I believe that?
That's
No.
not Gucci Mane.
Eminem
I don't know, man. That's Gucci,
man. Like,
People change.
He's an Andrew.
I read that article. It wasn't from, shall we say, a reputable source. But I find conspiracy theories interesting. Even the ones
Very.
I absolutely disagree with and think are absolutely ridiculous, I still like them. They're very interesting.
I would like to believe that the world's being run by lizards. You know what I mean? That actually sounds pretty fun. And becoming president, the idea that there's a guy out there making a 2-hour-long video like, all right, just hear me out.
Right.
Obama is a lizard, and and he's always been a lizard. like,
always been a
it's just I can't do it. It honestly.
Year
puts me
3
out.
of term 2, he became
That's
a
funny.
lizard.
Yeah, or the people, like I've heard all sorts of outlandish things. Outlandish things. The Pope is gonna rise from the dead.
The Pope.
Pope. It was like 3 popes ago, and I heard he was supposed
3
to rise from
popes
the dead.
ago.
Or
Like
whatever,
it.
2 popes
Gotta love
ago.
it.
I don't know. They're all close. Continuing
not
on.
risen.
Continuing on to the topic. So who has used comedy as far as Jack and I were talking about before? Papa J all day.
Hello.
Who do you like?
Who do I like? I like Dave Chappelle before he came back.
Okay. So you're not a fan of the new
Before he
specials?
came back.
They're all right.
This new guy, you don't think he's funny?
What? This new guy, I don't know.
He's
I
hilarious.
love Cat Williams.
Absolutely.
George Carlin, of course.
Of course.
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
What?
Rest in peace, Louis C.K.
Oh my
Newbreed's over
God.
here smiling because he knows the conversation we were
John
just,
Mulaney.
just having about Louis.
John Mulaney's a funny dude.
Okay.
He's a voice in Big Mouth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nick Kroll's pretty funny.
Yeah, Nick Kroll's pretty funny. Eric Andre's stand-up was pretty dope.
He's a very unorthodox stand-up. He's an unorthodox.
He's like really good
individual.
at improv, and I can vibe with that because I did improv for a while. Who else? Gambino.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, back when he was
that's
just
right.
doing comedy, I fucked with him so hard, and even his skits really fucking
Derek
funny.
comedy was genius.
However, music.
Listen, I just want to unpack. Jordan, do you really think that the Dave Chappelle that we're experiencing nowadays, that this is a totally separate person, that this is a clone
With the same comedic timing.
with the same voice? I mean, I agree. He definitely got
No, it's
bigger.
hysterical.
He got bigger. That is
got fucking
the
pumped.
only thing that gives me pause.
He was running
He
from
went from
lions
like
in Africa.
1999 Busta Rhymes to 2010 Busta Rhymes.
You know,
my
he
God.
might actually look. I like Dave Chappelle. I don't want to cast aspersions about him, but I think he might be on steroids because he really was like he was a very frail person. Like he's very thin. You
Yeah.
can see that in the Dave Chappelle days. He's a very
Wow.
skinny guy. But now he's got like this like just water weight, but he's muscly as well. But just like it's bloat.
It's
Like he
bloat.
looks
It's bloat.
soft,
He's
but
retaining
I
water.
think
Right.
like I think
Yeah.
I think it's steroids. Well, it's either steroids or he's a government clone.
It's a government.
Which, the other thing that kills me about this conspiracy theory is like, do you really think they spent all this time on a clone and they didn't realize the differences? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, oh, we'll just send him out. Nobody will question that he's like 3 times the size. I mean, and his voice is like all raspy and shit. Like,
this
Oh yes, we shall call him Super
he smokes a
Chappelle.
lot of cigarettes. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, he smokes.
And he's rich. He probably eats out. He's been off the fucking clock for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like with generally his weight gain, his delivery, he's still got it. I don't care. He still can fucking kill it.
Right.
Both those specials have me dying.
Right.
But Dave Chappelle, let's get off topic because we are talking about like hilarious individuals. But Dave Chappelle uses comedy to address a lot of big truths in the world,
Yeah.
which is a hard line to walk. This is why I kind of like this as a topic. Because in one hand, you're there to make people laugh. On the other hand, informing them is a completely different field. It's being a teacher and being a stand-up are two very different worlds, but they find themselves kind of touching
Right.
because there is a level of guidance and you're kind of commenting on the world that we all perceive, trying to find patterns. You have to be an analyst to be a comedian. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think for sure it's like to some extent at least. Yeah.
Would you say that your best bits come from fiction or from nonfiction?
Oh, I lie all the time. No, like this is my rule with stand-up is that like your day-to-day life rarely, if ever, fits 3-act structure.
Yeah,
Like, and
exactly.
not that that's what makes a good joke, but I'll say things on stage that I want the audience to believe. Like I would feel uncomfortable saying something that, like if they ask me afterwards, I'll fess up. But generally, like the heart of it is at least true, if not the actual details.
I feel like the outline, if that has to stay authentic, as long as something actually did, like if someone said something like outrageous to you in just some time, just came up to you and said something outrageous, and you took that story and you told it piece by piece, it could be a build up and that sort of thing. But if the original core never happened and it's just total fiction, I feel like that's where it's almost like, can you tell? Is there a way to
Yeah.
tell? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, you can kind of tell, like you can just tell with like somebody's posture almost. Like there's like one comedian who goes up and seems to do stand up purely to convince people that he has sex on a regular basis. This is a guy, not a well-known, this is an open micer, and I'm calling his bluff. Like, I'm not gonna name drop, but I'm like, me thinks the lady doth protest too much, and I can just tell it's false because it's like it's just kind of braggadocious and the insistence
yeah,
that
I
he's
fuck,
had
okay?
sex. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'll tell sex stories and stuff, but I don't it's not a good look when somebody goes up and it's just bragging.
Yeah, that's not a
You know?
comedy.
Like,
it's
and-
funny when it's bad for you.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
Right.
Yeah, and it
Is doing truthful stand-up easier or harder? I feel like it seems like the answer is yes. Like it's definitely easier to do it if you're being honest. If you're full of shit,
Yeah.
you're definitely gonna have a harder time.
there needs to be like a kernel of truth. Like you need to actually like kind of believe it and be able to sell it and believe in it enough that you can do it more than once, you know?
True, that's right. There's a routine to it.
yeah,
Some people don't
because
forget about it.
material can go stale. Like not even if it's a new audience. Like I'll get tired of bits and like not do them for a long time. And yeah, it's So they need to have staying power, and they need to be things that like. So when you say truthful, like truth is an interest. You know, this isn't a philosophy podcast, but it's like
Yeah, no.
like there has to be something that you kind of engage with, and if you engage with it, then I feel like audiences will too. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If they can tell, you can vibe it on you. Who do you like? Who do you think is like top tier? Who you look at when you're like, okay, I respect their form, I love their strategy, that sort of thing.
Well, you know, I've consumed most of Louis' stand-up, and I really like the kind of career he has, like doing, having done like a number of specials, and also like some his filmmaking and series. So, like, I like his career. He's the kind of career I would like to have, minus the catastrophic end. If it is the end, I don't know.
It's hard to bounce back, apparently. Meanwhile, Chris Brown can beat the shit out of
That's
Rihanna and wait a couple years and still win awards. I don't know how that makes
that actually, yeah, you've pointed out something very interesting. I don't know why Chris Brown gets a pass.
Why is he back? He's just back. He can't be stopped. He's like a fucking
I actually don't know if Louis...
He's a pop rich.
I feel like people, broadly speaking, have forgiven Louis, especially in the comedy scene for the most part. But I think Louis might just be super embarrassed and might not come back.
It is a hard thing to try, because if the whole world's talking about how you jerked off, how do you have a career where you go on stage where you've made a living talking about jerking off?
You just gotta come on stage.
It's kind of like the end of 8 Mile. Like once they know.
You just
know what
gotta
I mean?
go
Once
up there and be like, okay, so I was talked about jerking off, and I jerked off anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he didn't actually say I jerked off in front of people in his stand, like jerked off in front of people against.
He's made a lot
this
of
is
jokes
complicated.
about jerking off.
He has made a lot of jokes about jerking off, but not about doing it in front of people against their will. Although I haven't, like, if I remember correctly, he did get consent in at least most of the instances. This is a complicated thing. It's a fucking can of worms.
It's not one incident.
This isn't the hill I want to die on, Nick.
Yeah, all right, so we will skip this. But
No, we can't. I don't care. Actually, I'm not afraid of anything.
but the world.
No, I just, it's, yeah, I actually wonder if Louis will be back, because I kind of think he is embarrassed by it. And, like, it's, even though he has, you know, shared quite a bit of himself in his work, like, you can actually see his dick in, like, one of his TV shows.
Yeah.
Lucky Louis, you can Google that shit. Pause this podcast and Google Louis C.K.'s penis if you want. You don't have to. Actually, don't.
Off.
I'm embarrassed that I said that.
No, if you're under 18 and you're listening, just, you know, keep it quiet. I think what's cool about comedy, because if we're in the conversation of, like, Louis C.K., who was highly influenced by George Carlin. He even, like, cried when his fucking daughter invited him to... I think it was just, like, a tribute ceremony to George Carlin.
Yeah.
Which, if the listeners of this are not familiar with Mr. Carlin, it's George Carlin.
One of the realest motherfuckers to ever grace the stage.
If he was alive, I think he'd be very happy to know that this is a topic that people are talking about. I feel like he'd appreciate this topic. Because he is one of the only comedians, other than, I think, Bill Hicks, that really just said it.
Alex Jones.
Don't even get me started, or
Here we
you
go.
started, or us started. Not. This isn't a conspiracy theory episode. We'll definitely copy and paste that one for a conspiracy theory, because that one has to open.
The implication there is that Bill Hicks and Alex Jones are the same person, right?
Yeah.
There's so much. There's so many
I would
videos
say-
online, bro, that you would honestly be like, wait.
They have a common ancestor, but they're not the same person.
You would think that. Honestly, here's the thing. Justin and I looked into a lot of this, and I'll be honest, there are certain things that definitely don't match up. For example, the dental records are the same. Same teeth. That's crazy. There's a scar where fucking Bill Hicks used to have a mole. Alex Jones also tried comedy. He accepted an award on Bill Hicks' behalf for some reason. They both are in the same state. They worked with the same people. It actually goes way deeper than just like they looked alike. There's actually a credible foundation to the
Meat
idea
on the bone, you say?
that Bill Hicks was speaking so much truth in comedy that it is presumed the CIA basically convinced him to play the role of Alex Jones instead and be part of what they call a false opposition, quote unquote. So all that really means is that Bill Hicks is actually pretending to be Alex Jones and does a show where he pretends to expose truth when he really is being paid to do the exact opposite. That is the theory. And it's, yeah, like there's a couple of things about it that are like, probably not. But then there's a couple of things where it's like, but how'd he die?
But-
and then
but
you look
maybe?
into a couple things and you're like,
Just
okay.
maybe.
You really believe this?
I don't believe it, but I think there's a lot of information that you have to consider that I saw with my own eyes. I can't pretend like I didn't.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is the word conspiracy makes whatever you're about to hear sound ridiculous before you even hear it. And a lot of the time, people do fucking deep research and they find things out. Most of the time it's bullshit. 90% of the time, if it says it's bullshit. It's all bullshit and it's nonsense. There's like a 10% crescent moon thread of information online where you will stumble upon some deep dark secrets of our own country even. Like, and it's not even that hard to believe because a lot of these comedians that die, even when they died of natural causes, people were still like, they got killed. That's how much truth they spoke. And that's like an interesting world. You're a comedian. You're there to make things lighter. And you die for exposing things that maybe people already know are around. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty wild. It's a wild avenue that happens through comedy. How you doing over there, NewNewBreed?
Oh no, we just chilling, man. We rocking.
We
You know,
chilling, we out
gaining
here?
some knowledge
Is it too
on.
dark in here? Like, do you want the light?
Okay, let me tell you.
No,
what
not
is-
at all. I don't.
Thank you.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, just because like I saw you falling asleep over there. Yeah, you just get punched in the face.
Yeah, I'm just chilling. You know, I'm just chilling, learning some comedy. You know.
Problem that I can't breathe right now, and it's
It's that pollen, man.
That's what's up. I'm just
That
like,
pollen is fucking
Oh my
you up,
goodness.
bro.
Wow.
Probably my favorite comedian is this lesser known comedian called Dylan Moran. He's
I feel like I've heard of him.
Irish
Sounds familiar.
comic. Irish comic. He was did that show Black Books.
Was he in Boondock Saints? It's not that guy.
I don't know if he was in. I don't.
Because Boondock Saints, the dad was a comedian. He was fucking hilarious.
Irish?
He was Irish, yeah, for sure.
It might be Dylan. It could be Dylan Moran, but yeah, Dylan Moran. I like Pete Holmes, Mark
Oh,
Maron.
Pete Holmes is so funny.
Yeah,
I love Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes.
Do you ever see those fake Batmans on YouTube?
Nah.
The guy who's pretending to be Batman. It's called Badman, and he's
Bad man.
horrible as Batman. He just shows up
Yeah.
and makes everything worse. Pete Holmes voices those. And he's so fucking funny on
Like
that
a
one.
parody type shit.
How do you guys feel about Doug Benson?
I haven't. I've only my experience with Doug Benson has just been like I've listened to his podcast and some like he hosts like a game show or something at somewhere like.
Is it getting Doug with high?
Getting Doug with High.
That actually might cover both that the game show might be part of that podcast, but that's my only experience with him. I don't know too much about.
He's a neutral guy. Do you know Doug Benson, NewNewBreed?
I'm sorry. No, I don't. No.
You don't know Doug?
I
made a-
honestly, these last
I know
few.
so little about stand-up. I feel like by the end of this podcast, I could become his favorite stand-up.
You know, it's funny. I've actually seen you before. Now that I think about it, I recognize you. I went to one open mic.
Oh yeah.
Particularly by our friend of ours at the show, by the way, Chris Rockwell.
Hey.
I remember you actually being up there. I actually went up and performed right after you did.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was a while ago though. I went in there through my man Will, another friend of the show, Will
Shout out
Starr,
Chill Smith.
Chill Smith.
Bill Smith, the good guy.
Yeah. It took me a little bit to sink in it to like recognize you, but I remember you now though. Yeah.
It
Thank
took
you.
some light to be shed on.
Yeah.
That's fucking great.
But
That was a Bill Burr.
Oh, Bill Burr's another great comedian.
Yeah.
yeah.
So funny.
To answer your question, these last like comedians you name, I could tell they're all white. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I wrong? Yeah. These last several you just named. That's probably why. Because honestly, I'm only familiar with the black like popular comedians.
Very, very well.
Donald Glover makes me ashamed of my existence.
Makes me shit in my
So good
existence.
at every like he's an excellent stand-up,
Right.
excellent musician, actor. What else? He probably fucked good
also
too.
is a writer.
Like
Atlanta was an
Yeah.
amazing show.
yeah,
Right,
and
right.
he just is so multi-talented that like I'm going to try to switch bodies with him. I'm gonna try to put my soul into his. And
Have you ever seen Face Off with John Travolta? You do.
I'm thinking more like a Being John Malkovich type scenario.
Just takes over the life.
I'm
Yeah,
picturing you
just taking
literally
over his life,
removing,
man.
removing his
We
face.
see Jack next week, and he's like, and this is America.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Childish Jack Bino, just coming back.
No, we pretty much went through the African American comedians anyway. I think
Well,
in the
Richard
beginning.
Pryor, we didn't mention him.
We didn't. I know. Yeah, that's right.
Red
One of like
Fox,
one of
Red
the, yeah.
I would actually
Red
say
Fox,
Richard
yeah.
Pryor, like watching one of his specials, like when I was 13, is what planted the seed for me and ultimately
Really?
doing stand up.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Because it was like I remember watching it and thinking, oh, that would be fun.
Oh, okay.
Not in like
It looks
oh
like he's having a good time. Yeah.
yeah,
Right,
I
right,
really
right.
like that. I remember it was yeah.
I like that he had beef with Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
But Richard Pryor definitely was very formative for me. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard about the little situation that happened with Richard Pryor's son. Well, just to make a long story short, he was like booted out of the building or some shit like that at the what's that famous? Yes, I believe it was there. Yes, it was the Apollo. Yes,
Got you.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, now that was like a few weeks ago. If you guys ever seen the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne gave him Dunking of the Day. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's hilarious.
I'm not familiar with
Yeah, he has this thing called Donkey of the Day that he gives to people that just do dumb
Yeah.
shit. Well, it's not that it was dumb shit. I'm sure he wasn't expecting to get booed out of the building, but you know, it's hard to live in in the legendary father's footsteps. You know,
Yeah,
so-
that's gotta be rough. It's like if Eminem had a son.
yeah, I know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Like Curtis Blow has Curtis Blow Jr.
Does he?
Ice Cube. Doesn't Ice Cube or is it Ice T?
Oh my
One
God.
of the Ices.
Ice Cube's son looks exactly.
But
like
he's got a bright future out there in Hollywood. His son actually is really, you know,
I am curious. What is it like being a comedian?
right.
Being a comedian is very time consuming. Yeah, it's like a lot. Yeah, like it's easier in New York, like because you can do like more than one open mic in a day. You can get more stage time. There's more shows going on there. Like you know, I live in New Jersey. The scene is actually kind of picked up a bit. Like you can kind of hit up like 5 open mics in a week around here.
Okay.
Sometimes more actually. But it's still a lot. It's like a lot of driving and a lot of going and hang. There's also a good part.
Yeah, there's a good part.
That's the one thing I always just say. I complain so much about being a stand-up. And sometimes like it's overall pretty good. Like it's fun. It's like a nice little art piece that you can make. Like
Yeah,
it's, like,
it's a
you know,
getaway.
it's not like it's a 5 minutes. Like a 5-minute short film can take a long time to make. It can take months. But like a 5-minute set. Like
Right.
that you do on stage and an open
Yeah.
mic, that is the finished artwork in a sense. So it's like you can produce a lot. So that's why I got
You
into
can fill that
stand-up.
5 minutes quite a bit. Yeah.
And it's late nights. I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
So
yeah.
you're driving far, doing
Driving
the gig
far.
real late.
Yeah. I mean, and it's overall, it's like it's pretty fun. Like most of my I've developed a lot of good friendships through stand up. You know, I've met a lot of interesting people, and it's a good time.
It is a good time.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. I think like I don't do comedy. Obviously, I just do the music. But it's the same idea. Like driving far and fucking
That's the grind, guys.
preference. Like as a comedian, it's, the thing that always intimidated me when I watch a comedian though is like the silence in the room. As a musician, the sound is fucking there. I basically fill the sound. I'm having a good time. We're all jamming together ideally.
Right.
But you come out and it's applause, then silence. Then your every word you say now is the fucking act. That is every
yeah.
piece of it. So
Yeah, it's instant feedback.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you can be a shithouse musician and not know it because
100%.
you're just playing to an audience that is generally speaking being politely attentive, and stand-up crowds can be politely attentive, but when they are, like you know if it's going over well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the laughter.
Like
I mean,
the Apollo, you know you're gonna get booed out of there if you're bad.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the mythology around the Apollo, like, but yeah, it's apparently a rough room.
it's a rough room.
Yeah.
It's a legendary spot though, so
Yeah, no, I mean that's all the hardest spots. I feel like have the biggest names. I mean,
yeah.
that
Yeah,
just
I mean
really
it
goes-
is rough. Like the prospect of bombing is quite terrifying at first, but you know, you get over it. Like I've had bad mushroom trips, so like now it's like bombing on stage.
That
Get
mushroom
the
shit.
fuck you! Like, I don't give a like. I'm just happy to be alive sometimes.
Yeah, literally, I hear you on that. Like,
Yeah, like I can go. Yeah.
I've never really bombed. I've only really the worst I ever did wasn't even that long ago. I was just having a fucking off night, and I went in and I didn't have anything prepped. We were busy all that week. And people don't realize like performing not only is a lot of pressure, but fucking horrifying when the room just has a vibe. There's just something about the room that sometimes is like, I don't know if they're into this. I don't know if I'm wasting my time. I don't know if they're even listening. Like that, that is a horrifying feeling. I feel like as a comedian, you're way more subject to feeling that, like you said, because there's no music distraction. It's just
Yeah, they're deeply. It's like having a conversation with the audience that they're not really supposed to talk back.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dance. It's an interesting dynamic.
and when they do talk back, it's always usually negative.
Hey, Jack,
you can flip it.
how do you deal with hecklers, my friend?
It's you know, everyone's different, and I haven't been heckled too much in my time. Like, I don't know, I've done crowd work, and I feel like I've done it enough that I know how to handle it. I had a really weird experience with like 2 people in the audience like last week, I think. It was just weird, and it was sometimes like super awkward, and it can kind of throw you off. Like I ended up, but like hecklers are, I've never been like attacked super bad, you know?
That's good.
Yeah, I've never been. Well, I mean, like,
What happened with
maybe?
the 2?
It was a smaller open mic. It was at this place called. It's the open mic is called the Dog Pound. And there were only comedians there except for 2 people who were in that room. It's a restaurant. It's a small restaurant, and my friend Rob Avon hosts it. And there were these 2 people who were there. It was like 5 comedians plus 2 civilians, as I call them. And they were there, but they didn't know that an open mic was going on. And I was and I started my set by just trying to talk to them, because like it was just like 5 comedians who were more or less aware of my shtick, and I just thought I would try, instead of trying stuff on friends of mine, I would try with these 2 strangers, and they just did not want to be talked to, even though throughout all the comedy beforehand they were talking loudly over it. So I was like I was just trying to talk to them. Yeah, they were just trying to make some kind of point, and then they ended up leaving the room, and then I just was like shouting about them, and it was, I don't know.
In a way, that can kind of be a blessing in disguise, because then you have that to play with. Like they're do their bullshit, and they're screaming drunk, and then you play on their voice, their dumb outfit, or whatever.
Oh, there was an open mic like 3 weeks ago. There was this one open mic. It's in Long Branch, and it was just filled with townies. There were just these Long Branch, Long Branch. It's like just some beachside community, but it was filled with these old townies. That's the only way I can describe them. But they were just like, just quaint townie folk. I can't get away from this term townie to describe them. But they were. I had everybody had a good set, and the reason everybody had a good set was that everyone took an adversarial approach to these people, and but everyone fed off of that. It was a good time. It was that's like the opposite experience of what those 2 fucks decided to subject all of us to.
So they played with the fact that they were so dull.
They were just rowdy and drunk old people.
Oh, okay.
Like they were just
right.
like, and everybody had. If I recall, almost everyone had a good set, and it was because they were giving like a good
There was a
participatory energy.
Yeah, there was some ping pong going on there.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a bit and you see that the room is not reacting, do you change, or do you feel like, no, I have to complete the bit regardless? Like, do you change artistically for the room's preference?
Oh well, I feel like those are 2 different questions.
Okay,
Sometimes if the bit isn't working, I'll abandon it, and then I'll acknowledge it. I'll follow my sword.
Okay.
Like I'm not like I'm not like a wind-up toy. Like I'm adaptable, and like if a set isn't good, like, or I'll just like change the end if I have the wherewithal to do that. But yeah, I will change my. This is what I try to do. I try in the mornings, if I know that I'm going to do an open mic later, I'll come up with a rough set list of what I want to do. Like I'll guess as to who's going to be there and what kind of room it's going to be, because like you go to an open mic enough, you get a sense of the flavor.
Yeah. Plus the title of the venue.
Yeah, and so I will try to put together a set list, and then but it'll be loose, nothing I'm married to. And then when I get in the room, I'll see who's there, and then I'll make some further adjustments. And then not every room, like you gotta factor in like, oh well, if it's mostly comedians that I see on the open mic circuit a lot, like I'm not gonna do old stuff.
Yeah.
Generally I do try to work new stuff as a rule anyway. But yeah, I will change for a room. Yeah.
What is in the room what like determines like, okay, this bit will work or this bit will not work?
I can kind of tell by the looks of people, and actually, to be honest, like, I feel like most of my material, I don't really curtail myself too much. Like, I kind of don't. I feel like a lot of my material can play across most rooms. Like, it's not like I withdraw stuff to, like, preserve people's feelings. Like, I don't have that much. Like, I'm a free speech advocate, but most of my material is like not about like I'm not like
Preachy.
no, I'm not preachy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like more story based.
Even my political stuff is mostly just it's not even political. Like, I have some Trump jokes, but they're just Trump jokes. Somebody, like, I don't particularly care for Trump, but like the kind of Trump jokes that I do are not I feel like somebody could like Trump and tell those jokes as well. Like, it's not. Yeah. Like, I'm not one of those. What's these fucking women? I'm not one of these comics.
You're not Bill Burr.
The only time I would like curtail is like I have performed like on a few, not a very rare. I've like performed. I can think of at least once where I performed in front of like an older crowd. It was at like what was it called? American Legions or something. I don't know. I forget.
Oh, was that the one I went to?
No, not the VFW. No, that was a show I used to host. That is gone now. R.I.P.
Oh, VFW is gone.
No, not the VFW itself, but the show that I was hosting at
The
VFW.
roof to that room was almost gone.
That's yeah, we almost died. But there was a thanks for coming to that show, by the way, Gordon.
Of course.
Thanks for putting your life on the line.
Yeah, you almost died for the comedy.
Yeah, there was a crazy night. But there was like there was at least one occasion that I can think of where it was like a crowd of like relatively old people. So I did kind of, I guess in a sense, censor myself. Well, in a sense I didn't. I just ended up. A lot of my stuff talks about not substance abuse per se, but I talk about like drugs and like doing.
Do drugs help comedy?
Do drugs help comedy? It depends on which drug.
That is true.
I think that like I've smoked marijuana a little bit before a set, and it has helped. I actually don't think that I've had a negative experience with comedy and marijuana.
My fear would be forgetting. Because it's silent in there. Like, that's a bad mood. It turns into like.
I mean, I rarely ever smoke weed, but I can think of like at least one occasion where I smoked and it was all right. I can say that cocaine does not help stand up whatsoever.
Cocaine does not.
Cocaine is not a good. I mean, I haven't touched cocaine in a long time. Not that I ever had like a significant problem. Like I just ended up leaving cocaine because we ended up seeing different people. So cocaine doesn't help stand up at all. At least not for me. It made me very it fucked up my timing, and like it made me also so just. That the euphoria was so great that I didn't care if I was bombing. I'm just like, I'm fucking killing it, baby. That's yeah. So Coke doesn't help. A little bit of alcohol can. Like alcohol, like, but I've been obliterated on stage on more than one occasion, and that is not good. Like you might think like you might feel better. It's like a similar thing with cocaine. It's like, oh, you might feel better, but well, with alcohol, it's like you bomb it, like you think you don't even care. You go up and it's like, I'm gonna fucking crush. I don't give a fuck. They're going to love my intoxication. And then you get up and they're just. I've never done well wasted. Not that I get wasted anymore these days, but getting wasted is a bad time. I've never been on shrooms.
I don't know how other people do things.
Well, here's one way that I think mushrooms might help stand up. Is that mushrooms apparently, like you can do like one dose of mushrooms and it increases your. There's a psychological trait called openness, which I think is associated with creativity. and it increases that for up to a year.
Jeez.
After mushrooms, like it can perhaps permanently, or at least on the long-term basis, change your personality. So that might help, I guess. I've noticed. I guess I've become better at stand-up since I started doing psychedelics occasionally.
Well, I mean, opening the mind to everything, and it gives you more to comment on. And
Yeah.
like comedy is really like they're mostly story based.
Yeah.
usually.
Although I think that most of the benefits I've gotten from mushrooms have not been for stand-up. Like I feel like taking mushrooms to improve taking psychedelics to improve as a stand-up is a lot like scuba diving to find a rubber duck. Like it's like you go like it's.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Like it's like.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
I was thinking about that for a second there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that my analogy was too.
I wish we had like an animated team to make what you just said like visually like in front of me. Like, just like all right.
Yeah, it's a getting in rare form, but you can only, it's why it's rare form is that you can only be in it ever so often.
You got to get a gigantic jug and pour 2 beers in there, plus the coffee.
Plus the coffee.
Drink it all at once, right before you go on stage. Be a fucking superhero.
Just make sure it's a shake.
That's an interesting, but that's something that works for me, and those are both technically drugs. Caffeine
Yeah,
and
no,
alcohol.
well, sugar's a drug technically too.
Well,
It
you
alters
could argue
the
anything's a
mind.
drug. I mean, you're a fucking drug.
I'm a drug.
If I ate you, it would probably alter my consciousness.
That's totally fucking true.
Forever.
Definitely fuck with these two guys.
Yeah.
Sitting here.
Welcome back to Deadcast.
Bullshit Nick's broken down. I actually wanted to ask, what is writing material like?
I have a tendency, or I used to have a tendency to come up with stuff in conversation with people. Like I would often times like just be talking to somebody and I'll just go on a rant about something and then I'll realize it's funny and try to remember it. Write it
Try to
down. Yeah. I'm in a phase right now where I'm kind of consolidating all the material I've written. And right now I'm doing a lot of editing and adding to jokes that I've already written. Like I have a more careful approach to my stand-up now than I used to.
As
Like,
time's gone on.
well, yeah, like I kind of have this new method where I try to, like I have a set, like I didn't always have a set list every time I went up. Now I have a set list and, as I said, I'm not married to it, but I'll look at a set list in the morning, put it together, and then while I'm looking at the set list, a new way to tag a joke might come up, and I'll add it to my database of jokes.
Database of jokes.
Yeah, I've become very organized. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have, as a consistent performer, I feel like you need to have some level of organization to the entire, every performance. You have to know generally what you have to do, what you have to say. that
Yeah,
sort of
it's
stuff.
good. I mean, sometimes you just have to go off the rails, and that's fine. Like, there are some open mics, like that one I was telling you about, Dog Pound. Generally, that's just comedians that I know, and it's a small room, and it's comedians I know, and I'm on
It's more
first name
shopping
basis
material.
with.
Yeah, is it like just shopping material with each other?
Well, like
kind of?
sometimes you just go up and just like don't talk about anything, and I just like let's like talk about something that's going on in the room, and it's quite fun. But
Especially if someone's
generally speaking, a set list is important.
Yeah, you guys. Have you ever attended any sort of a comedy show or anything like that?
I
No.
hosted one. I
You hosted a comedy show?
I hosted a comedy show. I was in a couple of comedy shows. I did improv back in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any techniques with improv?
Bro, thinking, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a comedy show or anything?
No, I have not.
I saw Kevin Hart live,
Right.
and that was in AC. It was fucking so far away.
Right.
He's even tinier in person. He's like, oh, tiny little Kevin. And that was a wild experience because
I've seen Jack a couple of times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's been to I used to host a show at a VFW, and that show might be getting a new venue soon. So
That'd be cool.
that
Same
show,
venue?
it's this. I have this show called Pushover, a stand-up show. My friend Dan Gagliardi did one show that he called Pushover. Then he moved to Arizona, but he only did one of those shows, so he gave it to me. So I'm wearing the mantle now.
So it didn't push over to Arizona.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Oh man, have you ever tried stand-up? No, but
Dropping puns.
so that's a show that, but that show has been through twice we've gotten a venue, and then it just like the venue will like first time the venue went out of business, and then the second time my point of contact with the venue got fired, so like we couldn't work with that venue anymore. Plus, anyway, that place was gonna kill us all. Like Jordan was
All
there.
right.
Yeah,
okay.
you gotta explain the story. What happened with the roof? I gotta know.
Jack and I will get you through this.
All right.
Jack was hosting a show, and that was downstairs. The bar was downstairs in the VFW. Upstairs was like a banquet hall.
Okay.
And there was a quinceañera, right?
Yeah.
Something like that going on upside.
And this is an old ass building. And at one point they start jumping up and down.
To triple X Tentacion, look at me.
Yeah, and
Look at me.
You
Fuck at me.
see,
the roof just started to
right above the bar, just started dipping in.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Really noticeably.
Yeah. So, but
I didn't know they get down like that in quinceañeras. I didn't know. I honestly didn't think XX would make it to that playlist. You know?
Bro, somebody almost got down way too far.
Damn.
Yeah.
Next floor.
But
What happens in that scenario?
Well,
Because as comedians, you could, if you survive, continue the show, probably kill it because there's enough material in the room, you know.
yeah, it was risky, but I probably could have kept doing the show there, but it's like, yeah, why put everyone's life in danger?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
But yeah.
It's like having a gig like somewhere in the hood, and you're like, I want to get people out, but I also don't want this to be their last night out. Like,
I would do a show anywhere. I don't care. If you got a show, if you're listening and you have a show in the quote unquote hood, I'll do it. I'm not gonna turn my nose up at stage time. I have like a lot of stories that I could tell, but like I'm trying to tell one that doesn't make me sound crazy or is admitting to
talked
something
about-
illegal.
I think at this
Listen,
point,
my friend, we've talked about
We
something
talked some
illegal. We've talked about crazy shit.
it's fucking hot in here. Do you want to
I
hit that
don't,
AC?
Yeah,
I don't have
balls,
anything
my
like. Do you have anything that like? Have you? Do
wanna hit that AC?
shared something?
Who opened it?
Yeah, hit the AC.
Well, you know, one of the number one things
It's, there's
that
the
I
two
always think about
buttons.
when I think about our conversations are talk about pigs.
Oh,
Fucking
yeah.
cops.
No. This is a thing. It's like that. This is a bit that it's a bit I do in stand up, but it's based on an actual. Well, you were going. See, isn't it
Listen,
interesting?
it's one of the
This podcast
funniest
has come
things that
full
Jack has
circle.
ever said to me in my
Coming full circle.
life.
No, but it's like this isn't like this is true. There's a theory that pigs and okay. I have always had the
I can't wait to hear
suspicion
this.
that pigs are like. It's just interesting that this podcast started off with conspiracy theories and now has come full circle.
I've been waiting the entire time.
This is
for
really
it
what you want. I mean, this is
Yeah.
at Jordan's behest. I just want you to all know that. But there's this theory that I have that because like I've always wondered why Judaism and Islam has this prescription against eating swine, right? And these are two very old cultures, especially Judaism, especially. And so I always wondered why would avoid eating pig, and then I was reading into like there was like this scientist who talked about like the morphological and other types of similarities we have with pigs. Like so much so that this guy was kind of musing that aliens took some type of primate and spliced it with a pig and created humans, and it's actually very compelling. I can't.
So a pig is a piece of the puzzle of what makes a human being.
Well,
essentially?
my theory was like I kind of came up with this other theory, and I was reading about this at the time, and I went on stage and I started talking about how I think that the truth is that pigs are descended from humans, and that in some ancient times, some empire conquered some specific group and so utterly dominated them that they bred them into livestock and made them pigs. Because
Like
if you think, and then
weren't to begin with.
I because like pigs, I would say on the mic like pigs. I would like to say something like pigs don't have any ancestors on the fossil record. Like we don't know what they're descended from, and they have so many similarities to humans. By the way, made that up. I was lying.
Lie.
I was lying just to be silly. But this is something that I did. But this, Jordan always, whenever he sees me at an open mic, wants me to tell that story.
I
The first
love
time
it
I did
so
it worked. It was a fun time for everybody. But it was a flash in the pan, Jordan.
Listen,
It was a,
now
it's
so
not-
many more people are going to experience happiness that story's brought me. Like, Nick is laughing.
Do you want to know
laughing
something?
'cause he's
You want to know
always a
something
flash in
fucked
the
up?
pan.
Is that like I did a show called the Stage Fright Open Mic, and it's a fun show where you like it's in New Brunswick, and part of the they'll book comedians, and then they'll have people in the weeks leading up to the show submit jokes, and it can be anonymously. And so the jokes, the conceit of the show is that the jokes will be read by the comedians whom they've booked. So you're actually getting a proper comedian reading your jokes that you're too cowardly to do on stage. That's why it's called Stage Fright Open Mic.
Okay,
And
that's pretty
I
cool.
submitted the pig chimp theory as a joke to be told by me to myself, just because I was too embarrassed to.
You really do have stage fright with the bit. Like,
I can't wait for those guys to hear it. And my friends Chelsea, Ian, Melissa Jobin as well as involved in that show as a judge in the judging. Yeah, sorry guys, I submitted that joke to myself because I'm a stinker.
Boom. You've been done. How you feeling, NewNewBreed? I just look over your like
Look,
shirts
we just
off.
chilling, bro. We just chilling. We just chilling. That's what we do, man. We break down the bullshit and we chill after.
Yeah.
I'm so dried out.
I'll do your show, Jordan. Who Dat? That sounds fun. I'm more
It
than willing
is.
to.
Who dat?
Yeah.
Shout out to Kids on the Burbs for the inspiration. Right, Jordan? I mean, they came from them, basically.
Oh yeah. It's definitely inspired by their song being catchy as fuck.
It was very. I don't know if you've ever heard that track by Kids on the Burbs. I don't know if you. Have you ever met Kids on the Burbs?
Yes,
Excellent.
I've seen them perform. Very good
Yeah.
performers. Yeah.
Fucking. I think they played
Wonder Mike.
Wonder Bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so pissed.
I just need to find out how, because I have to be home by a certain time. Not that I'm trying to be all boot like. I just need
No,
to
we're
find
probably
out.
gonna wrap it up anyway.
No, it's fine. I can keep talking. I think. But I would actually love to keep talking. I really like this. This is really fun.
Yeah, right?
I just want to make
Yeah.
sure. I just have like this like interesting a Skype call I need to make later tonight at 10, and I need.
Duty calls.
But let
How
me
long have we been going?
We just broke an hour.
Oh wow.
Nice, nice.
This is fun. It doesn't feel like an hour. I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But let me just see how much time I have left. I hate to be this guy.
Nah, I was actually literally like getting to a point where I was about to wrap it up anyway, just because we already covered pretty much everything. And if you're doing a performance on his show, we already got a lot to work with. Honestly,
There's a lot of Jack Steiger to go around these days.
Jack Steiger. Plus, we covered all the topics that we wanted to cover. We also touched on all the different controversies. We had different opinions on what happened. All that's perfect.
And you know, bro, you're
yeah.
always welcome to come back.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
honestly, if we ever do a
Thank
conspiracy
you.
theory episode, like we'll have it.
Please.
That sounds fun.
That would be fun.
We'll make a list.
Yeah.
Get boned up. Like we're gonna have to all like come with like different conspiracy theories. So like,
Word up.
Bro, I'm so on it.
Because I feel bad. Like you're over there, you know, falling asleep. Like,
Nah, man. Hey, man. You don't. Let's not make it big news now. It's all good.
no big deal.
Nah,
Yeah. Other than telling truth in comedy, what else can be achieved through comedy and stand-up specifically? What are you getting out of the audience other than just informing them and other than making them laugh?
Getting laid.
Well, I guess just that one too.
Yeah.
You heard it first.
You heard it first.
That's fun.
Jack Steiger laying that pipe after gigs.
Not. It's happened, but not like super often. It's not like.
If it happened though, I mean that's something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's at least something to build more art from. Every experience you can build something from, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And it brings everybody together. It's like putting everybody on the same page. So I think the reason why comedians tell the most truth is because all of us hear the same truth. It's just depending on how you want to perceive that. But comedians, it's their job to. I feel like comedians make better points than lawyers at times. They're more realistic. They can actually paint the picture right in front of you as to what exactly they're trying to address in the first place. But they do it in a funny way, so you can't deny it. You laugh because it's true. So it's a very crucial art form, and I'm really glad we got to touch on it and also inform people about all the different avenues of comedy, and also inform people on some of who these people were. I was saying Red Fox, George Carlin, Richard Pryor. I mean, these are people that you should definitely be familiar with if you're any sort of fan of comedy, or in general just want to see some great talent.
Right.
But honestly, that's about it. I would just at the end we just do quick little plugs. NewNewBreed.
All right, you guys know where to find me on Instagram and Twitter at NewNewBreed. You already know what time it is, man. I got over 1,000 followers.
Whoa.
And really no point in me saying that, but I've been waiting for a long time for me to get that, so just appreciate it, all right?
What's up with that project?
Right. EP still coming soon, man. Look, I know I've been telling you guys every single episode that it's coming, but I promise you it's coming. I've been in the studio a little bit lately. I got some other stuff to lay out for you guys, too.
Hey, I've been
So,
seeing snaps.
Absolutely.
Lit. Yo, you already know, Papa J all day. I have a new Facebook page. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last episode, but yeah, there's a Facebook page for me, Papa J, hyphen my name Jordan, and then there you go. It's my page. You can find all the stuff. All the episodes of the podcast are posted there. Every episode of Who Dat is going to be there. Stuff with music's going to be there. All the shit. So give that a like. As always, my Instagram, Papa J all day, and my Snapchat, Hoodoo Panda.
Boom.
Yeah.
We're gonna put all this in the description, Jack. Plugs, links, anything like that. Upcoming shows, even.
I have a Facebook.
Very exciting.
No, I have a Twitter that we were talking earlier about how I hardly ever use anything but Facebook. Add me, Jack Steiger, Steiger. I post, and I'll try to get on. I promise I'll try to get on. How about, okay, my Twitter is at Jack Steiger1,
Okay.
I think.
Are you an egg?
No.
It's
It's just one I haven't used in a while. Look, I'll start using it more often. Just follow me.
Just follow me.
Look, the thing is that like on Twitter, I hardly ever use, but I follow like 32 people, but I'm followed by 32 people,
Yes.
and I only follow 8. So pound for pound, I'm still king. Like,
Big thanks to our special guest, Jack Steiger. Small class. Yeah. Put those fucking
Thank
hands
you.
together, Jordan. And,
thank you for having me. I really appreciate
No, no
the
problem.
invite. It was a fun time.
It
and,
was.
I would love to be on again.
Yes,
Yay.
we will most likely have you on again. Definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in. And the only thing we have left to say is have a wonderful night. It is 9:05. We're wrapping up, not at 2 a.m. That's pretty fucking shocking. And yeah. Peace.
Gotta break down all this bullshit. Gotta break down all this bullshit. Whoa.